Testing one, two, three. Testing one, two, three. Live. Back. Wow. Having the Charlie for the second time in the summer is no fun. Um, Not life threatening or anything like this. Just any kind of flu head cold in the summer. Uh, it's just no good. Like, it's just terrible. Anyway, let me test this stuff out. Hello. Test. That works there. Okay. So we start with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine King, power, glory, yours now, forever. And your Son, our Lord, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What? You want a bone? You want a bone? Show everybody you're here for a bone. Okay. There you go. All right. I'm going to discuss something very important because it's something we haven't seen, and then I'm going to get into some really hard details. Okay. Now, as you can tell, I'm the only one here that's been telling you the truth. Okay. A lot of others don't want to tell you the truth because nobody wants to hear it, number one. And, well, the one big truth is God loves us. So that's a big truth. And this is trials and tribulations to be sure. But there are facts. Anyway, let's get into this. Okay. I bring you to Exodus 20. All right. And a lot of people seem to forget. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Well, even more than that, but out of the house of bondage. Okay. First law, written in his own hand into stone. You shall have no other gods before me. Okay. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them nor serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. Ooh. I can't even go first with okay. We should not take his Lord's name in vain. I know there's a we understand this, okay? I suggest that you read Exodus 20 to understand a few things, okay? So I'm going to talk about this, okay? I'm going to talk about it very well because what's going on today in all matters of everything. They're trying to get God out of the equation. And if you check with the youth and you check with, I would say, from maybe 6, 7 to 30, 34, they don't believe in God. A lot of them, they don't believe in God. That's the plan. Because number one, oof, number two, when you don't have a God, the state is the God. So the state can give you stuff and it can take you away. As you read the Constitution, it says that you have been endowed with rights by the Creator. The 10 amendments of the Bill of Rights is not a limit on you, it's a limit on the government. So when you frequently see, I'll give you an example, criminals assault a cop and they don't get punished for it. Okay. What does that tell the people who are bad people about the regular citizens and what they can get away with in that domain? And I put it to you then, because I can't even, with the president 45 and his rights being violated, the first, the fourth, the fifth, I mean, the whole thing, really, if you really get into it. Okay. I'll give you another one. Then leave me alone for a while. Go to bed. What does this mean? What does it mean for us and the 87,000 new IRS agents? You think they're going to go, it's going to take 87,000 of them to go after the 600 billionaires, right? Because Biden said, oh, well, we're going to billion. Oh, yeah, man. Oh, man, man. Oh, yeah, man. We're billionaires. Yeah. I'm going to tell you something. You could take all of the people that are worth, say, net worth $1 million and above. Take everything they got, everything, the whole ball of wax. Okay, and you can only take it once, so they can't make any more money. You took 100% everything they had, including all their assets, the bank accounts, everything. How much money do you think it would be? How much? Hmm? Do you know how much? Think about it. How much? You think it's 2 trillion? Do you think it's the amount of money that this administration has spent so far in its office? Ready? No. Biden has spent 2 times as much. People, you have to count billions, trillions. Elon Musk is on paper worth about $217 billion. That's assets. 217. That's not even a quarter of $1 trillion. And he's the richest guy in the country. Bill Gates is worth another 100 billion. Add it all up. Ooh, it's scary, isn't it? Isn't it scary? Think about that. And he's telling you that this last bill before was a neutral, but that's the only way you can pass it with that kind of resolution, by the way, without going through the Congress, without it going through and getting 60 senators. So they've gone rogue, okay, because it's not constitutional. All right. And Rick is absolutely right. Therefore, no accountability unless it's to the state. Yeah. Well, there you go. So what you saw in the speech last night is the definition of fascism. Okay. Fascism is only having one thought, one way. Our way or the highway. That's it. That's not democracy. That's not freedom. Freedom is having an opinion, any opinion, okay? Any opinion. So I have to deal with the purple heads and what a person who thinks they're a cow and everything else. That's their right. Okay? It's absolutely their right. They can not deal with reality. They can say that they're a tree, whatever. Guess what? That's their right to spew anything is their right. I know I don't agree with it, but it doesn't matter. Because you see, once you limit the way you can think, what you can read, what you can say, this is the first thing to go. That's why our founders came here. They came here for this first, to be able to read the Bible. That's why they came here. Look it up. The attack on our founders, the attack on people who created this republic. And no, it wasn't perfect. And they knew it at the time. They all, I'm going to tell you something right now. I think fundamental viewing in every single school in social studies by the age of, say, 8 years old should be the HBO special that they did on John Adams. Everybody should, every kid should see that. Because if they did see it, they'd realize that John Adams was not for slavery, found it abhorrent. What did he do when he went to Europe? He found slaves. He never had slaves. He had his own farm. He was shoveling crap and everything else. He didn't have servants. He had some people who worked for him. He was right next to him out in that field. And he was a lawyer and everything else besides. But when he went over to Europe, he saw this huge class difference and how the populace was essentially suffering, but yet a few were reaping all their benefits. And he knew that that type of situation could not last. He knew it. All right, one more. One more. Come on, show the people how great you are. There you go. Okay. Finally, I have my voice back. Anyway, because you see, the most important thing, and I get into this big, and I won't get in too much. I can't. My vision is terrible. I've been making up for it. Okay, this would be, and a lot of stuff happens. A lot of stuff happens. Everybody talks about the rapture and everything else. That's not what. That's not according to this. Okay, according to this, all these bowls. And why are you and I here? We're here because we are Christians. And as Christians, we're to save others from the atrocities and for the things that are going to happen. You should not have any fear. My father always said you have to learn how to die before you can truly live. Fear is Satan. That doesn't mean, and he even said this is my father's own word. That doesn't mean you go out onto the LAE and play, handball against a truck that's going 65 miles an hour and all that. No, that's not what it means. Okay. You don't tempt fate. But you don't waste time. You do your best you can, but don't worry about it. Don't let it respect things, but don't let it stop you. Okay. Fear is the enemy. Right here. This is Revelation 19:11. Christ on a white horse. What has to happen before that happens? The Antichrist has to come. All HELL has to break loose here. Did you ever think things would be the way they are 3 years ago? I knew this. And nobody is addressing the real problem. Okay. The real threat, because Satan does not want you to address it. He wants your eyes to be closed to it because these people believe his lie. He does not want any of us to survive. He wants us all to perish. Now, could we stop the cataclysms that are going to happen to this earth by the sun? For the most part, yes. Can we stop the flipping? No. Okay, that's basically the tennis racket effect. Okay. So if you take a tennis racket and you flip it in the air and throw it, you'll notice that as it goes through the air, it actually spins and goes back into your hand. That is a physical conservation of momentum. It's physics that's brought into it. The earth is not a ball and a ball and a ball. No, it's actually like a big doggy bone in its core. Okay. So yeah, every X amount, 750,000 years, whatever, it does a flip, which means it rotates 90 degrees. There is a video on my Patreon site. There is all kinds of stuff. It's going to happen. Is it going to happen tomorrow? No, I don't think so. But the magnetic flip is accelerating. Okay. It took from 1859 to 2005 for it to reduce by 10%. It reduced another 10% in 10 years from 2005 to 215. From 215 to 217, it reduced another 10%. And I think they're going to find to now it's reduced another 15%. You're going to start seeing these 10% and everything else. They're not even going to be yearly, they're going to be monthly. What does this mean? It means that if there's going to be the sun is going, it's not even at its height cycle. Okay. It's got another 4 years before it's going to be at its peak. And remember, it's going to be, it doesn't just disappear overnight. No, it goes to the peak and it starts decreasing and stuff. That means that you can have a K20 with this reduced magnetic field and it'll act like a K100. What does that mean? Again, means no electricity, no internet. None of your wonderful things that you like will work. Oh no, it won't be down for a day like a storm. Won't be down for a week like a hurricane or the poles went down or no. It'll be down for 2 to 3 years, and I'm betting more like 3 years, if not more. Think about how your life and how you're going to survive without meds, without electricity, without heating, without water, without any energy. And if you don't prepare for that If you don't deal with that, knowing that that is going to be by the outside, maybe 5 years away, 5 to 6 years away maximum, and then the flip after that, which means if you can't get to a safe place, and I mean, and I don't have any more, I don't have any more, a safe place, if you can't get there, when the CME is released from the sun, you only have about 8 hours, 9 hours, because some of the particle forcing comes faster. You might have as much as 17, 20, but I would say 8. So if you can't make it to a safe place in 8 hours, you're never going to be moving again. Because after that thing hits, you're going to be without power. You're going to be without fuel. You're going to be without water. You're going to be without all those things unless you have devices and you've set up stuff to be able to make it yourself. Then you have to think, okay, what's going to be a danger to me at that place? Unfortunately, the first biggest danger is going to be people. That's right, people. Not everybody is a Christian. I've made lots of relationships on the mountain and everything else. I have a a, a detailed talent described as a safe place. Okay, there's basically three of them in this United States. There's others throughout the world. There's a video on suspiciousobservers.com. He goes into it. I'm going to tell you right now, he doesn't count the Northeast and the Appalachians a safe place. Why? Well, the winters are very severe, and then there's lots of people. But what he doesn't realize, this is why I don't agree with Ben, is that the winter is your ally. The winter goes for a long time up on my mountain. And there are times when it's minus 70 out and the wind's blowing. And if you don't have plows or anything like that, man, you're going to see 20, 30 feet of snow on those roads and everything else. Nobody's going to get around on nothing. Remember, no snowmobiles, horses can't do it. Yeah, you're back in this basically the 17th century, 18th century tops. That's what you're back in. So if you don't have a wood stove, if you don't have provisions for lumber, if you don't have a running stream, we're talking all the time. You're not gonna survive. If you don't have game, fishing, everything else, you're not gonna survive. Okay, you're just not gonna survive. And how many people are going to do that? The bad guys are not going to go and work that hard to survive. They're just not going to do it. Now, my family goes back in Vermont to the, I guess 1640s, 1645. There's actually roads that are named after my family. Um, the Ball brothers went up there and they set up a lumber mill and they dammed a kind of makeshift lake. Okay. And what they did was they made a mill. And the mill, they used to create lumber and the stuff that they couldn't use, they made it into firewood. So the two brothers did two businesses. One was lumber, the other one was firewood. Gonna be like that again. You're gonna have trades and skills like that again. You're gonna need people who can fix things. You're gonna need welders. That's the one thing. With my truck, which I got back, I can produce enough power to run my portable welder. I have a portable stick welder and I have an assortment of rods. I can run that on my truck. Okay. I can I have refrigeration on my truck. I have a lot of things. You guys say, well, your truck runs on diesel. Yeah, well, it also runs on peanut oil, automatic transmission fluid, home heating oil, a lot of things. Okay. Why? Because it's a 7.3 2002 before all this pollution madness, which doesn't do anything. Everybody's like, oh, it cleans, keeps the air clean because there's no black. Yeah. That black soot is captured by a DPF. And then it goes, when it gets near full, it goes into what's known as called a regen, which means it injects fuel into it and burns it even hotter so that you can't see the emissions. But it's a lie to say that it doesn't pollute. It actually pollutes more than my diesel because I get 30 miles to the gallon on the highway and I get 15, 17 towing, 24,000 pounds total gross weight between the van and my trailer. They get 7. I know this for a fact because my friend has a 6.7. He gets 7 when he's towing the same exact load, and he only gets 19 to 20 on the highway. So he's burning a third more fuel and sometimes double. Their math is stupid. Okay. The other thing you people have to understand is only 4% of diesel is used in transportation. That includes railways, trucks, and cars. The rest of it is used in home heating oil and industry. And that goes right up. Okay. And anytime one of these idiots keeps telling you that we're causing the melting and the climate warming and everything else, yeah, you say to them, well, what melted the last ice age then? Am I saying that, and I've said this a million times, am I saying that we don't need to get off? We do. We do need to get off oil. We should have got off oil in the 70s. We should have put a moon project to get off it in the 70s. Why? Too expensive. We needed room temperature superconductivity. We would have had it probably by 85, 87. It would give you 100% efficiency. 100% efficiency would give you. Okay. And everybody be running to it. Just like same reason why everybody started running to Model Ts. Why? Cost them less money to have a Model T and feed that Model T fuel and have it for 35, 40 years than it was to pay for the shod, for the hay, for the vet bills, for the storage of the animal and everything else. Remember, the animals were only useful for about 15 years. Got to get a new animal. See? So it was a practical thing. Okay. And it's the same thing with any technology. Why do you see computers? Because one person could do the work of 20 people, maybe even more. One person with a computer, word processor, or anything else. I know this because I was selling systems on the side in the 80s, and I was convincing these doctors, I said, look, this will make you about 4 to 5 times more productive, and you'll be able to deal with these stupid insurance companies because they have big, big mainframes, and you can compete with them now. And these girls don't have to keep typing everything again and again and again. They can just type it once and then just change it on a medical report, whatever it was. And I introduced database management systems to the, oh my God, they couldn't believe it. Did I have to twist their arm in the beginning? I did. But by 85, no. If you wanted to compete, you wanted to be competitive, you needed to have a decent computer system. You needed to have a word processing system. You needed to have a spreadsheet system. You needed to have a database management system. You had to have these things. If you didn't have them, you're out of business. Just like if you are a parts store or anything else, if you want to be able to manage 20,000 parts for cars and everything else, you had to be able to look them up. You had to be able to do everything. And if you didn't, your competitor down the street, oh, he could get that guy in and out of his shop in less than 5 minutes. It's the same thing. So you didn't have to twist anybody's arm. You have to twist everybody's arm for these EVs. You want to know why you're twisting their arm? You know what? You want to know why? You want to know why they have to make it so expensive to give you a tax break on this? Because they don't work. They're less efficient than my diesel that I have in my van. The diesel that I have in my van is from 2002. It's 50% efficient, which means for the fuel that I put in it, which is extremely dense, by the way, as energy content goes, because it's a cetane. It's not even an octane, it's a cetane. That means 10. Okay. And it takes that and it gets over 47 kilocalories per mole. That's an actual transaction of generating heat. Okay. And then it takes that heat, creates work. But because of the way diesel engines work with turbos, they recapture that heat and they use it for more energy because that drives a wheel that pumps more air into the system. More air, which is basically that's all engines are, they're air pumps. More air, more efficiency. So which means you're taking that last heat away and you're channeling it back. That's more efficiency. Okay. And the reason why I went with it was because the only way I could pull my Holiday Rambler trailer, only way I could do it, was to buy that kind of rig. I knew that a gasoline engine was not. It wasn't. The gasoline engines were only rated to pull 7,800 pounds, and I wanted a customized van. I wanted a Super Duty. I wanted everything, and I knew that if I put that engine platform in, I was looking at the thing. I was like, oh, okay, and it's 10,000 pounds. Okay, my trailer gross weight is 10,000 pounds. Boom, done. I was like, well, and the thing I like about it is that you're riding in comfort, and we were taking it everywhere to do everything. To work on the boat, I could load a whole bunch of stuff up in the back. I didn't have to worry about anything for trips. And when I'm camping, I didn't have to worry about anything in that respect. It tows like a dream. It's a fantastic platform, and that's why I keep putting money into it because they do not make it anymore. It doesn't exist. And believe me, if they had superconductivity, room temperature, some enterprising person would turn around, just like in Back to the Future, where that guy was selling hover things. I'm not talking about that. But he'd be selling a platform where I take your engine out, I give you a big electric motor that has unbelievable torque and this big new super capacitor, and your truck will do 500 miles on one charge, and it'll cost you only $5 to fill it up, and it'll take you 10 minutes. I'd be like, I'm there. How much? I'm not in love with the diesel, with the spillage and all the maintenance and everything else. This would be a whole new platform, but I'm not throwing the truck away that they do this. That no, they put the cart before the horse because you see, that's not this modus operandi. They can take your electric vehicle and they can shut it off at any given time. In California, the infinite wisdom of the governor is saying, by the way, don't charge your electric vehicles up. We don't have the power for it. So what are you supposed to do? Yeah, well, you can't use your car. Yeah, sorry, no, can't do it. No, and you got Amazon, these others that are buying all these electric trucks. He just outlawed gasoline cars in the state in 25, I think it is. I'm not kidding. And he's saying that he's going to outlaw diesel trucks in 2030. It's all going to be. Have you ever been to California? Have you ever driven in those mountains? These systems will not work. And they don't consider the amount of energy that went into constructing them. Because if they did, again, I use my old statements and big energy transfer. You're taking the pollution, you're taking the energy from that's derived out of mining these rare earths, and I'm talking some serious rare earths. Where are they mined? Oh, they're mined in South Africa, they're mined in Africa, and they're places where they're wiping out wildlife and wildlife land and polluting the land, sea, air, and water like you would believe because there's no OSHA standard. Or in China, where there is no birds. You can go in China for 100 miles and not see a bird. They have to hand pollinate peach trees, hand pollinate pear trees because they were using DDT for 70 years. So there's no bugs. This is reality. Are they going to tell you that? No. Has anybody told you this? Has Trump told you this? Trump had a unique opportunity. He had a letter from us telling him, and I published this letter. It was signed by 37 of us. And we were telling him, hey, wake up. This is the problem. And you stand up in front of the UN, tell people what the real problem is, not the climate change, the sun. And if you don't prepare for this, if you don't do this, we're going to be effed big time. It's not a matter of if. What's the next threat? Near Earth objects. Yeah, not an if. Oh well. Oh well. Yeah. You know. So a city killer comes every. Oh yeah. Well, okay. So what we do first? You want to be in that city? You think that city can survive a 14 kiloton explosion from an asteroid or meteor? How many planet killers are there out there? Oh, okay. So that's not a likely event. City killer is a very likely event. You want to be in the city? Or worse, say it hits an ocean and creates a huge tsunami, wipes out multiple cities on both coasts. That can happen. And it has happened. Was that addressed? Wasn't addressed. And then we saw the president last night basically declare war on 74 million Americans because he does not agree with our opinion. Telling us that I don't have a problem. I do not have a problem with this whole. I don't even know. I can't even keep track. The last time I looked, it was 68 genders that were officially recognized and they have to be officially gotten the pronouns of in the state of New York. Okay. What I disagree with is it's a non repeatable event. You can't test for it. And they're making it a legal precedent to where somebody can sue a business, my wife's, if they feel that they're discriminated against because we didn't respect their gender because we don't understand it. And I'm honestly telling you, I do not understand it. I do not understand it. Now, like I said, I can take this bar of silver, okay? I can perform tests on it to verify that it's not only silver, an element, but it's what it says. It says that it's 99.99 fine pure silver. I know how to do this. I have knowledge. And guess what? It's repeatable. Somebody else can do the same process. It's like almost like four different processes between You can do it electrically, you can do it nuclear, there's all kinds of ways you can do it. You could do it chemically. Okay. It always tell you one thing. This is silver. But when somebody says to me, I'm not, I think it's non-binary, whatever. There is absolutely no way for me to be able to repeat any type of test, whether it be DNA, whether it be anything, okay, to scientifically prove that that's the state of that thing. I say to you that there is no difference for that person than anybody walking around saying that they're worth $1 billion. And they're, no, you have to take it on my word. So give me $150 million, please. Imagine going to the Citibank teller saying that you're worth $1 billion. No, no, no. I have $1 billion. No, 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 no. No, you gotta no, I said it. It's true. You're discriminating against me. Give me my 150 million. What's the difference? Or then going on to a base and they no, 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 no. I'm a lieutenant commander. Oh, they didn't graduate the Naval Academy like my son. They didn't go through flight training like my son. They didn't go through deployments like my son. They didn't go through test pilot school like my. They didn't. He's the NATOPS guy. What does that mean? That means that they have to go through him to get their wings. Oh, well, anybody can do that, right? I feel like I can do that today. So let me get into that F-35 or that F-18 or whatever. I saw the movie Top Gun. I'm ready to do this. I don't need any of that crap. I already know. Yeah, because I'm that person. I believe it. Do you think they would let any person onto a Navy base and into an aircraft? Do you think you have no idea? There's biometrics on that military ID and everything else. Do you think that should? Well, I can tell you what they're doing in this state. I don't know about the other states, but since Biden is president and even before him, they've been sanctuary state. They've been taking these illegals. What do they give them? They give them a phone. They give them a check for $15,000, and they give them an ID, a driver's license. Yeah, and they're registered to vote too. They don't want to touch. Shh. We don't. In order for my son, that same son, to get a driver's license, he had to show him his social security card, his birth certificate, had to take tests, had to show them he went through driver's ed, and then he had to take a driver's test. Yeah. No, they won't let a tennis star, a guy who's really healthy, he doesn't want to come. He's not vaccinated. He's already had the. It doesn't matter. No, immunity doesn't exist. You have to be vaccinated. So even if you, I still got it. Okay, doesn't matter. The point is, no, we won't let you. Oh, but we let all these people walk in, and we don't know what they have. What do they really have? What's showing up in the hospital? Oh, third world diseases like tuberculosis that's antibiotic resistant, and all kinds of wonderful skin rashes and other diseases like whooping cough and monkeypox and all these wonderful things. Yeah. Isn't that great? Oh, I was at the I've seen the priority. I was in the hallway. They handed me a jar and they told me to piss in the hallway. Yeah, go ahead. Here. No, yeah, right. The legal they're in a private room. I only pay the bills. So if you're an American citizen, you have the rules. I have a governor in my state that recently turned around, and even though the Supreme Court specifically stated that I get to have a full carry license, even though I was turned down to have them because I have no need. You only give me a sportsman license. I don't have a need. Turns out that that's unconstitutional. Supreme Court ruled, just like they ruled in the Heller case in Washington D.C. This people still can't get guns. Doesn't they do what they want to do? So she put new laws into effect. I have standing. I could. You know how much money it would cost me to take a case to the Supreme Court to defend my rights again? Yeah, exactly. Why do they want mail-in ballots? Do you know that Joe Biden said the reason why you don't want mail-in ballots? He stated this all the way back in '84. Oh, they're susceptible to fraud. Yeah, I told you. You think that this election coming up is going to be legal? It's going to be fair? It's not. It's going to be the same thing. And until there's an ATM card that's issued with your mug on it and it's given a code and you have to go to the place and you have to stick the card in. Everybody knows how to use an ATM. It's got $1 on it. $1 gets deposited on it every single. You don't even have to write new software. $1 gets deposited on for every election. Okay, 1 month before they put $1. You can't use it in. You can only use it in their ATMs, just like your bank. Okay, you their ATMs. You put it in. You type in your code. It's taking your picture just like the regular ATM is. You fill out your voting sheet. You hit print. It prints your ballot. Verified. Oh, is this right? Yep, it's right. You submit it. You walk across the floor. You stick it in the scanner that they've been using, but now it's all filled out. Two separate electric systems that meet in a certain way. When they meet like this, one vote. Are they going to do this? Why didn't Trump get on the air in 2017 and say this when he's the one who came up with the idea on the Oprah Winfrey show back in 2005? Why didn't he talk about Fukushima when he had the Japanese prime minister come there? First foreign dignitary. By the way, how's that Fukushima thing working out? According to our scientists, it's still dropping about 820 uh, tons worth of highly radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean, and it's been doing that since 2011. That's not good, and they tell me that plankton and other sea life is taking it up, and it's moving through the food chain, and that water is going to be in the Atlantic Ocean in 53 years. Did you see Trump make that question? Was it uncomfortable? If not him, who was ever? What Democrat would ever say that? People saying, "Why he's against Trump?" I'm not against Trump. Okay, I'm just saying that he's not the perfectionist that you think he is. I know he was attacked all the time and everything else, but guess what? I don't think he would have been if John came out that night down at that thing. Oh my God, that's John Ken. That's that's John John. Oh my God. And then the, everybody would have been boom, boom, boom. Nope, nope, nope. Then he would have been able to really do things. Then who would be the AG? By the time the oath of office and everything else, who do you think is going to be the AG? John, would that have been different? Would that really put these people? And he would sit there telling you exactly what's really been going on, what really is going on, and who would listen? Everybody. That's what pisses me off. Many times, all this coding crap and everything else. Did it need to have happen? No, didn't need to happen. And if you're not going to do that, which means my father always said this, he who hesitates is lost. Good or bad, a decision not to do something is still a decision. Not making up your mind is a decision. Sometimes you got to take the plunge. Believe me, I've been in a lot of cases where I was like, okay, this is my best. I hope it's right. 9 times out of 10, I was right. Oh, there were a couple I was wrong. But guess what? On those 9 times, one time I saved the entire E.F. Hutton floor, the whole thing. They were going to lose everything. I IPL'd an IBM that normally takes such initial program load almost a half a night to do this, and I did it in 17 minutes. It took me, oh God, another 6 or 7 hours to IPL the other one. Then it took me 3 or 4 hours to bring down the one I IPL'd so quickly because it was in a very jump wired state and everything else. And then it took me another day to bring that system back. I go in there Friday. I didn't leave till Monday afternoon. My hood of my Lincoln was dissolving because I had very sketchy sleep that whole time. Oh yeah, I made almost like $40,000. Who cares? At that point, I was in. I didn't know my name exactly. Grace Girl says, "So was John Wayne for?" And that I put on John. I don't put that on Trump. Trump felt like he was the older brother, and he didn't want to feel responsible for anything that would happen to John because of John's history. You don't know the history and what they've did. Literally, they turned his own mother into a pea. Horrible, horrible things. You think she wanted? No, she had to do this to keep her children safe. Horrible, horrible stuff. And yes, maybe that blinded him in a certain way and everything else. I don't know. But the thing is that you don't come out and do it halfway. And guess what? Yeah, and there's no question. 23 Angels Late. You're absolutely right. He was because within the first, I would say, 3 months, but I don't know if that would have been the case. They tried to kill him and President Trump many, many, many times. And yes, I was wrong. I was wrong. I'll admit it. I thought Pence was okay. I didn't think he was great. I had no idea he was as bad as he is. No idea. You guys were telling me he was. You guys are right. I was wrong. But I wasn't wrong about the fact that there was a Charlie Oscar Utah Paul. No different than 1963. No difference. No difference than when Abraham Lincoln. No difference. The only difference, Trump is still alive. But believe me, by doing what they did in Mar-a-Lago and everything else, they set lots of stuff up. They planted things. They took pictures of things. They wouldn't let the. They did all kinds of hokey. And if they can do that to him, an ex-president, what does that say? What they can do to you? What does that say that they can do to you? It says you better get some cameras and you better hide them. It says you better prepare. It says that you better buy these and a lot of them and keep them in all your dwellings. Because guess what? They say, and I'm not kidding, book of hate. Biden described it last night. Book of hate. We know because we've read this. This is not a book of hate, it's a book of love. If you tell somebody the bridge is out, the bridge is out, please stop, the bridge is, and that person goes through you, is it your fault that they drive off the cliff because the bridge is out? It's not your fault. But if you turn around and you know the bridge is out, and you smile and wave, hey, as they fly past you at 60 miles an hour, and they fly off that bridge, guess what? Their deaths on your butt. You will have to talk to God about that one. You won't have to talk to God about the fact that you were trying to stop them. This is all this is. When we tell people the word, we are trying to tell these people about the cliff and the bridge is out. There is a bridge, and this is the way to get on it. We're not judging, right? Matthew said, take the plank out of your eye before you go for the splinter in your brother. I'm not judging. I'm just telling you something. I died. I saw it. Below me, I couldn't believe it. Billions and billions, as far as you could see, falling into this abyss. I didn't see what's in the abyss. Just them, they were being ripped to pieces, falling into it. It was beyond horrible. And it was screaming out in all kinds of, it was horrible. Absolutely horrible. And the minute I said to myself, I thought I'd be down there because I didn't even say anything. I just thought it. He told me I was forgiven before because I forgave, even though I didn't forgive myself. Then I stopped even thinking because I realized he's in my head. And it's not that I minded him being in my head. I just didn't feel I was even worthy to have him in my head. He told me this place is a test. No question about it. And I wasn't the only one on that light bridge, whatever. There was 39. As far as I can see, only 39 billions and only 39. So what's written is true. On the road to HE double toothpicks, multi lane highway like in New Jersey Turnpike by where, you know, yeah, heaven, no. I'm sure there could be, but that's not what the reality, and it was real. It was more real than this. So am I, and he told me to tell you this. I'm doing what he told me to do. I'm telling you about the fact that there is No bridge that way. There's a cliff. Is that bad? According to Mr. Brandon last night, oh yeah, it's it's bad. Really. Now I'm going to lay some stuff on you. Go out and take all your discretionary money that you have. Forget about Christmas presents. Buy as much canned food as you can, non-perishable stuff, rice, beans, canned food as you can get. And prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Because the 10-year yield is going exponential. What does that mean? It means that the liquidity is drying up, and it also means that the job figures that came out today is a bona fide 100% lie. How do I know this for a fact? I'll tell you something that doesn't lie. How does payroll go down by 22%? And how does the employment figures come in like that? They're lying. Now, these things are controlled by payment and payroll services that are used, like ADT and everything else. They're facts. They're facts. What else is happening? The galactic sheet is no question about it, has entered our solar system and is affecting the planets. Now, remember, it's a wave, okay? It could be as much as, oh, 100 AMUs. That's 100 distances between the Earth and the sun. I don't have any more. Don't keep don't keep banging my arm. Okay, we know that it goes like this. Okay, so means it's hitting us means that it's starting to go the other way. Okay, which is affecting also our planet. We had some of the fastest days last month and this month, not by a little bit, by a lot of it. Okay, 1.3 milliseconds. What does this mean? This has to do with these poles and the flipping and everything else. It's accelerating. It means that you're going to see a tremendous eruption someplace. A super volcano someplace is going to go. We already saw Tonga literally blow up. An island in the Pacific just blew up. Within 10 minutes, parts of that island were over 100,000 feet. And that was a small one. These are realities. They're talked about in this book. You know, I think God wrote them down and was talking about them for a good reason. He was trying to warn us about them to tell us, hey, get your butts together and work it out. And you can actually figure this out and harness them and stop these things from harming people and yourself. We could have done this. This is again a problem we put before Trump. We could have done this. I told him, and this was Michio Kaku's idea. It would be the Hoover Dam. This is his own words. The Hoover Dam of the 21st century would be harnessing Yellowstone. There is a magma-sized field underneath that that is the size of Texas. Do you have any idea how much energy that is? It's sitting at 5,000 degrees. We could use our horizontal drilling technology and tap into that and drain that pressure and that material and relieve that pressure and harness that by harnessing the materials, harnessing the heat, using carbon dioxide turbines running on CO2, extremely efficient, very small, extremely powerful. You probably could power a third of the country from this one thing. And let me tell you something, it would make the power like ridiculously cheap. Not to mention the minerals and materials you'd be harnessing from that. Would it change else? No, but it would stop it, just like the Niagara Falls, just like the Hoover Dam. It would stop it from blowing up. What did the Hoover Dam do? It stopped it from flooding downriver. It used to do it every year. What did the Niagara Falls do? Same thing, by harnessing the Niagara Falls, stopped it from the flood and everything else. Now, do I blame Trump? Again, no. Trump had people who were sticking him with knives in his back, leaks in his White House, leaks in his staff, leaks in everything. However, I do believe that if he got out front and said these things publicly, the truths about UFOs, the truth about everything, guess what? They wouldn't be able to harm him at all, because he'd have you, me, and everybody else on his side, because he would be telling us the way things really are, what the real threats are. And let me tell you something. What does World War III have to do? What does Putin have to do? It's all worthless. Because no matter what he's doing, he's wasting time and effort and energy, because the solar storms are going to wipe everything he's got out just as much as they're going to wipe the Chinese out, just as much as they're going to wipe our shit out. They're going to wipe everybody out. There's no getting away from it. And when Yellowstone goes off, that's going to be another bad day. You're going to see in literally in 10 minutes, you're going to see 10 miles of ash vertically, horizontally, and widthwise in 10 minutes. Do you have any idea how many people are going to die? Do you then have any idea of how bad they've had? This is not an if. They've detected ashes all the way to the western borders of New York State, over 2 inches thick from the last time it blew up. Can't get away from these things. Everybody is worried about all the small crap. It's very frustrating. As a scientist, it's very, very frustrating. Because as I said to you a million times, and this is where Trump was absolutely right, energy is the real money. It is. Energy is the real money. There's no question about it. We see it in all forms being attacked. The energy that we put on our tank is being attacked, and the energy we put into our mouths is being attacked. My Patreon people have my number. Things are going to get very tough very shortly. I wish I was wrong. Unfortunately, I haven't been wrong. You have been with me, guys, for a long period. You'll know that I have not been wrong. Energy is everything. The manipulation of it, the creation of it, everything. We've had the first, really, there's 3 tiers to what I call the holy tech, the holy grail of tech, 3. That is fission and fusion. We have fission. photon computers, room temperature superconductors. Those are the three things. I've reached as far as I can go, a block basically with the photon computer project. I have figured everything out as far as a running system. I cannot figure out how to get to run. I can't figure out how. I I mean, I'll put it to you in terms of my diesel's a 7.3. The engine is humongous. Okay, weighs over 1,500 pounds. The starter that turns that engine over is only about this big. On the photon computer, the actual computer is about this big, and the conglomeration that's ending up to try to start that is ending up to be as big, if not bigger, than the 7.3. See, but it's the other way around. It's the that whole monstrosity trying to. Yeah. So I'm doing something wrong. I'm not seeing it. I haven't had any help. It's very frustrating. Um, as far as the power, look into Kirk Sorensen and Flibe Energy, and look into LFTR. I'll write it down. LFTR. There are videos. We've had this. It was developed by Alan Weissman. Basically, we had a reactor running in Oak Ridge for about 14 years, passing all the tests. I don't know how my cousin, but Sydney Ball, a Dr. Sydney Ball, a cousin on the project. Okay. Nixon gets a call, probably from GE. What can I do for you guys? What? I read a report. They had some good results. Okay, yes, sir. He calls up Oak Ridge, has them take the whole thing and throw it in the wastebasket. Whole project's canceled. Because why? It's 98% efficient and it works. It would make your electricity literally, you would be paying $20 a month for maybe even, I don't know, double what you're using now, but only $20 a month. Yeah. Don't want that. Can't have that. True story. Are there any questions before I get into Tesla Tesla tech? Yes and no. Um, technically, the stuff that we're running on right now is Tesla tech, but Tesla wanted to harness the solar wind of the sun. It wasn't free energy. It was like building a dam on Niagara, but you're building a dam catching the wind of the sun. Problem that he didn't consider because he really didn't have knowledge of astrophysics. What happens when you build all these things and you're channeling the solar wind and the solar sun decides to have a big mass CME? Ah, yeah, you guessed it. Yeah, disaster on biblical proportions. It wasn't considered. So Tesla, brilliant man, but didn't consider everything. But he had great ideas. The wireless transmission of the energy was fantastic. Essentially, the creative, the radio, all the AC that you have in your house, his creation. And even he didn't say it was. He said he discovered it, and that's pretty humble because he recognized that it's a function. It really is. So yeah. Um, but there are other people. The person who created the light water reactors and heavy water reactors for the Navy is the same one who invented the molten salt reactor, which is what you want to do. You want to go that way. Can't be used for making bombs. It can only be used for making power and specific types of radioisotopes to convert them into very useful radioisotopes. In that decay chain, you ready? Very, very small amount out of maybe, say, you put in, I don't know, maybe 50 pounds, you'll get maybe 1 ounce of this. Yeah, it's in the decay chain, silver. So you could, because it's a breeder reactor, you could tailor it to, you could basically transform. You're transmuting and you're transforming um, heavier elements to other things. So, and generating power the whole time. And they're natural desalination plants because of Carnot, you got to get rid of 50% of that heat in order for it to do work. Got to do it. Yes, and yes, that they did sell us out. Yes, yeah, J.P. Morgan was part of that, and those other people. And yes, they sold us out. In 1905, they turned us all into slaves. And recently, it's been the most egregious theft of our money and transfer of wealth ever. Okay, ever. So that's not gonna end well. And you're going to see inflation go into, right now it's 20%, and you're going to see it basically go into 40%. That's why I'm telling you to take money out of the bank, buy food, and you have to have food. You can't, you know, you can buy diesel oil and store it, um, but food is definitely an expense that you're going to have, and it's getting shorter. And if it's not going to be scarce on the shelf, it's going to be through the roof on the shelf. It's already extremely expensive. It's going to get more. Okay. The only reason why fuel went down is because he emptied the strategic oil reserves, and because of the economy, there's less people that need it because they can't afford to buy it. So all their Sunday trips and other types of trips have been, no, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. Yeah. Well, how do you think that's going to affect the economy? And that's what happened this summer. So where's that going to show up? Oh, it shows up in payroll. Okay. It shows up in basically goods and services, but we're not talking about durable goods, washing machines, dishwashers, things like this. Go see how many they sold. See how many building permits there's been. See about the price of energy throughout the country. See how the utility bills, on how far and how much people are behind paying them. 1.5 million people now are behind paying their utility bills where they weren't 4 months ago. They are now. And we're headed into the winter. And it's going to be a cold winter. Green energy doesn't work. At best, it's an energy transfer, but it doesn't work. Again, you can't go from efficiency, natural gas, very efficient, really not really polluting. Biological decay puts out natural gas, but you might as well burn it. It's going to go into the atmosphere anyway. And it's technically worse as a greenhouse gas. It just goes up as methane and burning it. So, and it's going to go up in the air. It's going to happen. So you should harness it and burn it. We need it. And you ready for this? You can put a specific adapter on diesel trucks and have them run right away, right now, for about uh, maybe 600, $700 to convert that truck from diesel to natural gas. And let me tell you something. There's already a distribution network of natural gas. You wouldn't need DEF, and you wouldn't have You'd have a very good exhaust. They were doing this for years in the parks, like Yosemite. They were running the buses off of CNG in Yosemite because they put out less, smog and things. Because remember, it's a valley cut with a glacier, so there's no way for the pollution to get out. So back in the 70s, they banned you could get in there, but then you had to stop driving. You had to take the buses, and the buses were running on CNG. Okay, and very easy to do. Any diesel engine can be converted to be running on that. Okay, any combustion engine can be easily converted to be running on that. A combustion engine is even easier. Probably cost you $150 for the engine, and again, you'd probably have to spend $400 for the tank to store it. That's it. You wouldn't need the catalytic converter. You wouldn't need any of that other crap. You wouldn't need it. It would so they say that it would be less horsepower. I say it would be more because you wouldn't have the restrictions on the exhaust and everything else. But the engine itself would work fine, and you could get rid of all those injectors and everything else. Just one valve going in through your intake manifold, no big deal. Easy conversion. Could have done this. Okay. What would that do? Again, give the people the option. You have so much natural gas, it will be much cheaper. You're giving people an option to either somebody would be putting out kits to convert the gasoline cars into a compressed natural gas car or a diesel truck into it. And it would increase the distribution and everything else. Did that happen? No, it didn't happen. Yeah, well, that's kind of the mark, right? Don't succumb to any of these things. Don't do it. Okay. So believe me, people will be dealing in bartering and every other types of things. Maybe not in silver, but definitely I know people up in Vermont around my neighborhood that I have a skill. I used to be a master welder. I put myself through college welding. Oh yes, I wouldn't want to have the first 15 mastheads I did. I'm not going to tell you. They wouldn't break, okay, but they weren't pretty. But after 100 of them, you got pretty good. Okay. I used to weld up my friend's tubular chassis for his IROC race car, and he wouldn't even do it. He was welding for years. He said, "No, no, no." And I set all his stuff up as MIG welder, and I used to do TIG, and I have a whole rig here myself. I can do TIG. I can do MIG. I have a lot of different sticks because it's very expensive to get, and I just have really an argon tank. I don't even have an argon 25 CO2 thing. I just have an argon tank. Um, because if I'm gonna MIG, I'm gonna MIG with basically a flux core, or I'm gonna be TIG welding, or I'm gonna be stick welding because a lot of stuff I'm fixing. I'm repairing stuff outside and everything else. If there's a puff of wind, you can't use gas. So the gas is really only good for doing TIG, and when you need TIG, you need argon gas for TIG. So, but if you have a skill, or if you want to make money today, do things that nobody wants to do. If I was anybody, anybody's looking for, I would. You ready for this? I'm going to tell you right now. Go to welding school. There's several big trades. The best one is in Georgia. Take out a grant from the United States government and go to welding school. Get your certification. Get your pipe fitting. You'll get a job. Go, you don't believe me? And I've seen guys who are 65 years old walk out of retirement, go to school, and they're hired immediately. And then No, no. Do you know how much a certified welder gets paid? You all this OSHA crap and everything else, all this stuff, all those walks, all those they have to be welded, and they had welded to a specification. All these boilers and stuff like that, they have to be welded. They have to be welded to a certain certification. There are certain structures when they're building skyscrapers or any types of construction that welding has to be done to a specific criteria, and then they x-ray it on the job, because what happens if that joint is no good and you have 40 floors above it? Yeah, it's bad. those are those are flux core gas. That's how. Oh yeah, really heavy duty stuff. And those guys get paid 350, $400 an hour to do those welds. I don't even want to talk about the shipyards. Oh, man. Those super lists for building those ships. Oh man, yeah, you're talking about guys. They're making guys and girls a lot of money, and that's just one thing. That's just one thing. There's lots of jobs that people do not want to do. They think it's beneath them and everything else. But I'm telling you right now, it's not beneath them. There, you need somebody to service your HVAC systems. You need somebody to service your plumbing, your electric, and everything else. hmm But right now, you need to take your discretionary money and you need to buy food. If the crap hits the fan, you got one can of food a day per person, and you have a liter to 2 liter. You have a 2 liter bottle of water. You really should have a methodology of creating water, a source of water that's whatever, and then create it. Okay, have a way of making that water. There are systems out there, but you can build your own, and they're not expensive to build. And you can build. People don't understand how distilling water works. Okay, water boils underneath vapor pressure, so you don't have to boil water at 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees, and at this specific pressure. You can reduce the pressure and boil the water at a much lower temperature. It'll have the same effect. It'll still create steam, just steam that's only 78 degrees or 80 degrees. You're saying, so what? That's a huge energy savings. You can still condense it, you can still tap it, you can still extract it. There you go. And what they did was they were stick welding. There's still a tremendous amount of stick welding that's done on job. Why? Um, Everything from a 6013 to a 718 stick, they have phenomenal uses, and it's a skill, and it's extremely portable, and it doesn't matter on environmental conditions. So there's no gas bottles, there's no MIG reels and stuff. Oh, there's a tremendous amount of MIG welding, and there's big commercial units that are doing that with 15, 25 pound rolls and stuff like that. But that's one type of welding. There's a lot of tack welds and a lot of structural stuff that's done with a lot of stick welding still. I would say the first thing to do, you can go Harbor Freight and you can pick up a stick welder for as little about 250, $300. And they're light, they're portable, but I would definitely go through a trade school and learn how to weld. There's You ready for this? There's adult classes at your regular local high school that teach welding, that teach different things, and it's free to a citizen of that specific county. And then anybody can walk in and take the certification test. You don't just it's just like just like taking your flight exam for being a pilot and everything else. Anybody, yeah. You just have to go. You have to take your ground written thing, and you have to do your hours and your solos, and then you do your flight check, and there's your FAA guy right there, and he signs you, and he's in the right seat. You're in the left seat, and there it is. Yep, and it's the same thing. Welding, there's specific orientations and specific stuff that you have to do. The thing about the school is it takes you basically 8 weeks, and they will refund your money if you can't pass your test, and they make you ready for that. That they know all the tricks. And let me tell you something. There's a lot with that. There's a lot of wisdom in that type of experience. I mean, a lot of wisdom. So, but I would definitely anybody coming out of high school, I would definitely tell them to go to any of the trades. Don't go to college unless they had an 87 and a half average, and they wanted to be a doctor, they want to be a lawyer, some kind of scientist, and something. And usually they'd have to have an average higher than that. Um, then school is worth it. But minimally, if they don't have an 87 and a half across the board, and I'm talking about some hard classes, they should go into the trades. But you know, what I noticed today throughout, and I noticed it when I used to work in the field in doing my computer science and setting up things for. I did the computers for Tron. I did Cranston Surrey stuff. Robert Able Associates. I set up all their computers, and some pretty heavy stuff at the time to do some pretty heavy computation music stores. All that animation stuff. Those are running on the computers that I set up. Um, and I noticed then. I mean, he was a guy. I'll never forget it. He's supposed to help me. He's got a PhD from MIT, and right away I saw. I'm like, and then I said, "Excuse, do you know what a TTL is?" He didn't know what a TTL was, and he's got a doctorate in computer science. A TTL is fundamental to the way all computers run today. Okay, it's like what a shovel is to a guy who digs ditches. Okay, it's literally how a bit is switched with three transistors. So if you don't understand that, then I'm like, you're just a user. You don't know anything. Yeah, okay, fine. He knows all these, but he doesn't know what's inside this thing that's making it do what it's doing. He doesn't understand this. He's worthless because I was doing things that you couldn't do that were outside of that book. I suggest you all go see download the movie Maverick. It's a very, very, really good movie. Probably the most stunning footage I've ever seen. Um, yes, not a very plausible. They had to be able to say something because the F-35 cockpit is classified. They're only single seat jets, and there's no way they were going to let anybody on that jet. It's not going to happen. Okay, everybody was riding back seat, and they only took Tom Cruise off the carrier launch in the back seat. They didn't do the other actors, and the other actors never went off the carrier. They did all this other footage, but they didn't go off the carrier. They only allowed Tom one catapult launch. Okay, so, but I will tell you that I know some, and they were very impressed with Tom's flight skills, uh, knowledge. expertise and devotion to his craft of being a Navy. I mean, he's a helo pilot. He flies jets. He's got his own jets. The hardest thing believe it or not, he flies, which is it can be extremely unforgiving, is that P-51, and that's his P-51. Um, that's a World War II aircraft, and it's all cables and everything else. There's nothing automatic and nothing. So you got to be on all the time when you're doing that. Um, that other jet that he was flying and other things, way more forgiving. So, yeah, excellent movie to see. Fantastic. And I also thought that his acting was really actually quite good. He was showing the real effects of PTSD, the guilt survivor effect, and I think that it's a good movie, really. Specifically, the third act is fantastic. So definitely, you know, if you haven't seen it in the theater, you should really see it at theater. To be immersed in that, it's incredible. Oh, closest I got to doing that was my son set me up on my F-18 simulator, and which I was able to land on my third attempt. I didn't crash or nothing. I just tried other attempts just to see everything and whatnot. But I was able to land it on the carrier. Was not able to I landed the helicopter once, crashed it I found the helicopter harder to do. I crashed the helicopter like 3 times. I flew the simulator for that. Um, way well, first of all, it's kind of backwards, which means you're used to pushing your right foot um, for certain rudder effects on throttle and adjustments and stuff like this. And as you were pulling the lift, you had to put a rudder correction in for the torque of the rotors and everything. Hard. So it's hard to have a habit and hard. So I do. The helicopter stuff is, I mean, yeah. So my hats off to people who can do that. And no, and Tom Cruise did some incredible flying seas. I think it was in Fallout or so incredible Mission Impossible movie. He did all the helicopter flying in it, and incredible stuff. Really, really incredible. Muscle memory. Yeah. Well, you gotta understand. I've been flying really, and I'm talking about really holding the controls. My father said, my father's me up on 3 phone books and putting me in the left seat. Really, from the time I was like 6, I'm not kidding, 5 and 6 years old, and he would handle the rudders and stuff, but I was able to, and he was doing the throttles in the beginning, but I was handling that. He had me handling the yoke, and oh, by the time I was 7, I was doing everything. Yeah. Um, oh yeah, he was an instructor for the Navy. He used to teach. Funny thing is that my son's career has almost echoed my father's. Matter of fact, my son's last deployment, my father was line maintenance officer, and my son was line maintenance officer. Just unbelievable. And they used to always make my father's bird a little bit, shinier and everything else. They didn't have the gray paint then. They had my father was flying the jets of the Bridge of Tokori thing. That's basically his era. But and then he was an instructor down in Corpus Christi, first in Pensacola and then in Corpus Christi. So yeah, and my son, he went to test pilot school. He was a test pilot for some time. Now he does all the NATOPS check rides, and he's an instructor down in Pensacola. So yeah, so there's definitely, but yeah, he flies. He flies that. I think he's type rated in 30 aircraft, in helicopters, jets, all kinds of a tail dragging fixed wing thing. I mean, they put it through everything when he goes through test pilot school. So, and again, he assumed Carlotti in that. So that was pretty good. So he's up for. I mean, my wife and I want him to have that gig big time to become a test pilot instructor. Um, but with what's going on, I think my son wants to get out. He can't stand the woke stuff. He believes, you know, the best people, period, and not a poster. So they shouldn't be in the cockpit because they make up a specific quota and post it. It should be the right person for the job. Everybody's afraid to talk now. um, like I said, I tell the truth, and I'm telling you again to buy food and buy your necessities. They're only going to cost you more money, and they are going to get scarce. You think it's a chance that again another food plant went up in flames? I mean, how many of them have to go up and burn to the ground before you guys realize there's something afoot? Something's going on. Something's happening. Just like, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out the person in Luke Oil, the CEO, was against Putin and made some comments against the Ukraine thing, and all of a sudden he jumped out of a window. Just a coincidence. The guy wanted to, try to fly something. I don't know. Yeah. That's what kind of happens when you have people with machine guns invading your house and going through your wife's negligee stuff and all kinds because there might be nuclear secrets in her underwear or something. I don't know. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff we've seen in banana republics in third world countries. The raping of what's happened in small countries in Africa for these rare earths is, and what they're doing to the earth is a sin, an absolute sin. I don't know how these people can go to sleep at night preaching how EVs are gonna save the planet and it's great. Oh my God. Do you have any idea of the damage that one battery makes by creating that battery? People, do your homework on this stuff. Start seeing where these cobalt and barium and lithium and oh, the horror shows on what I put it to the same kind of crap that was going on in South America in the 30s and 40s, where they found emeralds and they found other things, and what they were doing with children and slave labor and everything else. Oh my God, it's happening again. It's happening again. But because you don't see it, it's not on your phone. They control what you think and see. This is now hate speech. They are discriminating against you in every shape and form about anything. If you think a certain way, if you're conservative, if you don't want to kill babies before they're born, you are a hateful freak. You're the wrong. You're an extremist. So we should kill kids before they're born. Gee, isn't that great? Yeah. Topsy turvy. I mean, do you realize how many blacks have been killed abortions since 1975. You know how many blacks are alive in this country? In this country alone. You know how many blacks there are? The population is the same. Not the ones that immigrated in. The ones, yeah. How can they be the same? Because they aborted that same population. How many Washington Carvers did they abort? How many Sammy Davis Jr.'s did they kill? How many Louis Armstrongs? You know, and it's not only them, it's their children's children and their children's children. And that goes for all the abortions. Do you know how many Einsteins we get per million people? How many Pavarottis? These are actual things they've worked out in numbers. So, how many of them do we not get because of abortions? That's the sin. Oh, yeah, it's sin in other ways, but you see, that's the tremendous sin to mankind. Somebody that's not even talking about that. It's a choice. You have to have a choice. Did they choose? What about, they talk about the choice of women. What about that girl fetus in the body? Did she have a choice to be put on a tray and sold as parts? She's just as female as that woman. Did she have a choice? Her choice was taken away, wasn't it? How about the choice of her eggs? All those potential babies, they're all gone. That's the sin. It's a sin against you and me. We're deprived of their talent. They could have come up with that holy grail of tech. They could have fixed, could have been the next George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Neil Armstrong. Who knows? Could have been the next Pavarotti. Could have. God knows. We don't. They wiped out that potential because it was inconvenient. They should have thought about that before splitting their legs open. See, the reality on all this stuff, you could say, oh, it's the men's fault. I totally disagree. In the 50s, there were specific standards. Oh, there was always the dregs of society. There was always the guys that couldn't get laid unless they went to a prostitute or they went to a questionable person. But the person who was going to have relations on a regular basis and have kids and reproduce and have a wife, they had to have a job. They had to have they had to get married. They had to be in order for that woman to recognize that as potential. All these things had that. Yes, it was discriminatory against women. I'm not going to get into that. But in order for that woman to say yes on any of those things, that guy had to meet a specific amount of criteria. And if he didn't, no joy. What happened? Women's liberation happened. Then it wasn't. And remember, I mean, the reality is it's a woman that says yes. If she says no and it happens, it's rape. That has not changed. What's changed? The criteria. Every friend that I had who was living with his girlfriend, whatever, before they got married, they got divorced. They're divorced now. I just celebrated my 40th anniversary. I'm a minority. Everybody I know has gotten divorced. Some of people have gotten remarried and they got divorced again. Very few people that I know have been married. The people that I know now, yes, they're married, but what I'm saying is that when I got married, all the people I knew then that got married or were friends of ours, they're all divorced. My opinion. Our children are better for it. My men, and I have men, what's the best? My men, you could say, trying to find a picture of both of them. Well, I can't find a picture now, believe it or not. Hmm, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't find a picture of my sons. Keep I have tons of pictures of my grandsons. That's why all these all these pictures. Well, I'll show you my favorite picture. This is my favorite picture. I used to take the summer off, literally from the time they got out of school to the day they went back into school. I took the entire summer off. My wife would take off the month of August, and we would spend it at the marina or out on a boat, which we counted like our second home. And that's the way we used to treat it. We used to treat it as our second house. On Starlight, you had DC, you had AC, and you had mechanical things, winches and everything else, sails, pulleys, navigation, and a diesel engine. My first diesel engine, actually. And I remember when I bought the boat, the first thing I thought when they started that diesel up was that it needed a valve job, but that's just the sound of diesel engines. It's the sound they make. Anyway, they learned a tremendous amount on that boat, and they both got their um, boating licenses by the time they were 7 years old. They took the exam. They both had licenses, and I used to let them take the. We have a 12 and a half foot Zodiac. I used to let them take it out, and further, I used to let them. One time, they actually we have a pop up tent, and they took a tent and camped on a island in the middle of nowhere by themselves. There was a thunderstorm that night, and they could have called anytime. They didn't, and they were different when they came back the next day. They packed up all this stuff. My sons had this constant, and they spent some serious money. They bought a metal detector. They used to come back with necklaces, rings, and stuff. They were looking for Blackbeard's treasure, you know. So they used to give all the jewelry to my wife. You know, yeah, this is all we found. It found like, like 5 or 600 bucks worth of jewelry. I mean, my son would go downstairs and look up to read the logs again. But that drive for finding Blackbeard's treasure was driving them in a very positive way. Like, but by the time my eldest son got into the fifth grade, he wanted to become an astronaut, and I did not mind. I was like, okay, if you don't make it, go into the naval. And we looked. I thought he'd be in the Air Force kind of, but there were no naval. Had more astronauts than that. I'm like, okay, well, it wouldn't be bad if he went to the Naval Academy. You have that ring. At any rate, I want you guys to have a fantastic Labor Day. I know that you're hardworking. God will watch your back, but He also wants you to try to watch others' backs. Keep the faith. You're going to be fine. Please join my Patreon page. It's very inexpensive, but it will give you another contact point to me, and I'll be able to help you directly through these bad times. And all my Patreon people are welcome to that. I really feel I owe you that. Anyway, God bless, guys.